I'd like to welcome you all to our annual Alumni Association Candidate Forum. We're still waiting on 2 candidates to get here. But yeah, as you know how college graduates are, they're not on time.
Some of them.
CP
Some.
time.
Yeah.
So, the format of the forum is as follows. It's been divided into 2 sections, with the candidates vying for each specific office appearing together. The first part will be for the Board of Trustees. We have 4 candidates. 3 of them are here. 1 will not be shown. We have Matt Coughlin, class of 75, Kenneth Poole, class of 73, and L. Jackson Thomas II, class of 73. These are the alumni that's vying for the position of alumni trustee. The 4th candidate, Terrell Smith, had a family emergency, class of 16, so he will not be shown. The next section will be for the officers of the Alumni Association. For president, we have Darryl Braxton, class of 92. Ernest Scott Fields, class of 92. For vice president, we have Eric Till, class of 92. And Meta Timmons, class of 79. For the office of treasurer, we have Donna LeQuinn, class of 91. That's who we're waiting on. She's not here yet. Each segment will begin with a 3-minute question. 3-minute introduction question from each candidate for that office in response to the moderator's question. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes to respond to the question posed by the moderator. Should the candidates choose to conclude his or her response prior to the 3-minute time limit, he or she should inform the moderator that they have provided their full response. Please note that time remaining cannot be transferred to a subsequent question. Time will be kept by a member of the nominations committee using their digital timers. The segment will conclude with a 3-minute response to the final question. After that, we will open it up to the floor for questions. This is something new we done changed this year. We're going to take questions from the floor. Once the trustees are finished, then we continue with the officers of the Alumni Association. Now remember, this is a forum, not a debate. There will be questions taken from the floor. Fellow candidates are not permitted to interrupt another candidate responding to his or her question. All responses will be given in a professional and civil manner. All candidates must adhere to the time limits. First violation of the 3-minute rule will result in a 1-minute penalty on your next question or response. Second violation will result in removal from the forum participation. All questions were submitted by the alumni. Now, our moderator for this forum is Stephanie Wilson Benson, class of 78. Our timekeeper is Thedius Saunders, class of 71. And I'm the overseer. All right, the trustees, candidates, we would like you to come up on stage.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
First of all, before we begin the questions, thank you for your service. I know they say that a lot in the military, but thank you for coming out today. So, what I would like to do at this time is to ask each and every one of you to please introduce yourself with your name, your class, pertinent biographical information, and why do you desire to be a member of the Board of Trustees of the Alumni Association of Lincoln University. So I shall start with Mr. Poole, please.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Kenneth Allen Poole. From the class of 1973. For the last 4 years, I've served as the Vice President of the National Alumni Association of Lincoln University. I, at times, was asked if I wanted to run for president, but I thought that we need younger blood, to be honest, in that position. And so I felt that from my life experiences, my experiences with Lincoln and with the alumni, that I could best serve it in on the board of trustees of Lincoln. And I feel that, as I said, from my work experience in finance for Lockheed Martin and GE Aerospace, my experience working with budgets, business analysis, could well serve the board. I feel that I'm a good listener, I'm very objective, and I'm not a rubber stamp for anyone, and I'm not a member of the party of no. I like to view any situation. If I'm not aware of what's behind it, I will ask questions and I will voice my opinion prior to any vote. And I think that that's very important on this board for trustees, particularly alumni trustees, to speak up and speak for the Alumni Association. Thank you.
My name is L. Jackson Thomas, but I'm better known as Jack Thomas. It's said as though it's one word. It all runs together. I guess the best place to start is that I was born and raised in Chester County, went to Lincoln, should have graduated in '70, took a little sabbatical, graduated in 1973, went on to law school, came back to Chester County and practiced law. My practice included, I practiced with a retired judge from the Court of Common Pleas in the county, who was a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania's law school, Order of the Court, which is like Phi Beta Kappa out of law school. Our practice included representing corporations, and it was a general practice, but we did a lot of work with corporations, Gulf and Western Manufacturing Company, Geno's, which some of you are old enough to remember. I personally represented an HMO in Bucks County, and we were challenged by the hospitals in Bucks County, and had to take them to the Commonwealth Court. So I'm familiar with corporate governance, which is what controls the law of corporate governance in the Commonwealth, which is what controls the behavior of the Board of Trustees. The reason that I'm running is, first of all, I've retired from being an assistant United States attorney. I was a federal prosecutor for over 30 years. I prosecuted some of the most serious crimes in the District of Columbia, including the 9th federal death penalty case against a guy who Jay-Z sang about. His name is Wayne Perry. We convicted Wayne, and he's now serving a life sentence. That has allowed me, my retirement has allowed me to become more involved in fraternity, scholastic, alma mater related kinds of situations. I'm running for the board because, frankly, Lincoln is broken. It's broken at the top. We need to fix it. I think the best example of it is what just happened with the forum for the presidents, where they first tell us they're going to have the forums on 3 days, never tell us what time the forum's going to be held, eventually cancel the forum, give no advance notice of it, and now no one knows when the presidents are going to be interviewed. That has to stop. Lincoln has shareholders, and the alumni and the citizens of the Commonwealth are among them.
Good afternoon. My name is Mac Corbin. I'm a member of the class of 1975. My background, right now I'm retired. I do some consulting work, but my background I was involved with and worked for pharmaceutical companies in the quality assurance and regulatory affairs. So I'm well aware of, in terms of audits, I've had to deal with the FDA on a number of occasions when they will come in and audit your entire operation. They're looking for anything that they can find to fine the company. That was the professional part of it. My civic portion was that I was formerly a 3-term councilman at large in the city of Inglewood, where I also had the honor of serving as council president for 3 years. I served on the Bergen County Charter Study Commission, which recommended that the entire county change its charter from that of a county executive to that, from that of a freeholder-led board to that of a county executive. I'm very familiar with right to know, sunshine laws. I've dealt with budgets both from a municipal standpoint as well as dealing with budgets in the corporate world. My reason for staying involved, I should say, I'm not getting involved, but staying involved with Lincoln is for the students. It's for the students and the shareholders, and it's so important that the Lincoln brand is positioned above what it has been in the past. Feedback is so important. Metrics are so important. How do we know whether or not what we're doing is effective? We look at, for example, I've had students come up to me that were looking at why doesn't Lincoln sponsor a major and not just one student, but about 20 students in a certain area? Is the Board of Trustees listening to that? Are we looking at some?
2 minutes.
Are we looking at some majors where you only have 2 people? We have to continuously look at what is important and changing Lincoln University in terms of what is best for our students. Branding is so important, and Lincoln needs to be not back where it was, but above where it was. And this is not my first time running. I'm determined, and with the votes of the Alumni Association, I will represent you, I will communicate with you. I'm not always going to say everything is going to be what you wanted, but I owe you the opportunity to communicate with you in terms of what is going on at our alma mater. Thank you.
Gentlemen, I have several questions that I will be asking you. The first question is, what goals do you wish to accomplish in becoming the next Board of Trustee member, and how will these goals be beneficial to the Lincoln University community? Mr. Poole?
I'd love to be it first.
Cuz.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, that I would like, my goal being a Board of Trustee member is to be first objective in the things that are brought up with the board, issues that are brought up with the board, and not be a no vote or go along vote, but looking at each particular situation as to how it benefits the students, the faculty, and other shareholders of the university. I believe that we have to go in with an open mind, and as Jack said earlier, that in some respects, how things are done right now are not in the open and not a message clearly to the shareholders. So I want to be a voice to try to open that up more. Also, one of the main things that concerns alumni involvement is, one, changing class reunions back to graduation week. From my point of view, it was a more successful event when the banquet occurred. There was a larger attendance, and with the attendance, more gains financially for the university. I spoke to a number of fellow alumni who have told me that in the past that they've contributed to the university and saw no results from what they did contribute. And I think that that's one thing that we and me, as if elected as Board of Trustee members, we need to work on that more. Thank you. Keep it short.
Well, I think that I said it best early on. Lincoln is broken. And the fact of the matter is that it has to be fixed. And it's broken, frankly, at the board level. It's broken at the administration level. And it's going to take the board coming to some new realities about itself, its responsibilities, and the nature of this university. Lincoln has grown, and the key word in the question was a community. Lincoln University is more than just a school. Lincoln University is a community. It's interesting how the Board of Trustees has squandered the resources of this institution. Just look around this campus. There are buildings here that you are well acquainted with that are boarded up, shut down. And that's because of the management of this organization. If you turn around and look, we had to have a new gymnasium. Everybody raved about it. I remember when we used to go down the street and go bowling, all right? Now there's a bowling alley in the gymnasium that nobody's using. There's a swimming pool in the gymnasium that nobody's using except the local high schools. Kennett Square and Avondale's have swim teams there. The U.S. swim coach, or the U.S. diving coach, is in Westchester, Pennsylvania. He came here and tried to start a diving program. He's never heard back from the university. I was honored recently by the Chester County Alumni Association. A friend of mine pledged to match $1,000 of whatever was given at a luncheon. Lincoln University never bothered to get his name, and Lincoln representatives were there. The Board of Trustees has a responsibility and has exercised this responsibility to assure our accreditation, to assure our good financial status, but we also have to make sure that the university is being operated properly, our assets are being preserved, and our best asset are our alumni and our students. We have to become user-friendly. We have to graduate alumni who are interested in participating in the institution. Thank you.
It's already been mentioned, the problems that we have at Lincoln, and it's something that we all know. I think the key is, how do we move and correct those problems? One of the problems that I see, as far as the Board of Trustees is concerned, one is the lack of transparency. The lack of transparency and the use of the word confidentiality and code words, Sunshine Act, so as not to respond. We have an obligation as board members to be a conduit to our shareholders, our alumni, our students, our parents. We have to come together as a family. It was mentioned that we're a community, but we're a fractured community. We're a broken community. And we have got to come together for Lincoln. We have problems just like any other family, just like your own family. But how do we overcome those problems? Yelling and screaming at each other is not the way. Coming together for a common cause and reminding everyone that at the end of the day, it's all about Lincoln. Lincoln has afforded us an opportunity to be where we are today. We cannot afford to let our alma mater go by the wayside like some of the other institutions of higher learning are experiencing today. And in the climate that's happening in Washington, D.C. today, more than ever, we need to leverage our assets being our alumni, our assets being our students, the parents, our faculty. Right now, there's too much fracture. How do we come together? We need to come together for the good of our alma mater. And we need to do it in a bold way. We need to solicit input from our shareholders and make sure that that input is given to the Board of Trustees and we can act upon it. Okay? Whether or not it is enacted, I have an obligation to get back to you and the shareholders to let you know why things did not work. Thank you.
We're going to shift gears with this question. This is a wonderful question. If you had an opportunity to fill unoccupied, undeveloped land that the university owns, what would you place in that space?
Me first again.
No, how about I do? Mr. Kaufman, would you go first, please? Thank you.
Question is, if I had an opportunity to utilize some of Lincoln's resources, that being the land, what would I do with it? I would have to look at how is it going to benefit Lincoln short term. Depends on what that land use is, what we're going to use it for. Is it going to be a detriment to Lincoln? Is it going to bind us into some type of an agreement that we cannot get out of over a period of time? At the end of the day, how is it beneficial for Lincoln financially and for the community as a whole? There has been conversations about business centers utilizing land under the auspices of, well, it will be beneficial for the students. But sometimes when you're bringing in someone to utilize it, you've got to give them some incentives. And I know that firsthand because serving as a councilman at large in Inglewood, we've had developers come in and just to get them to come in, we've had to give them incentives such as payment in lieu of taxes. And at the end of the day, what was happening was that those people were taking from, but not giving back. And ultimately, the responsibilities of finances fell on the backs of the residents. I don't want to see that happen to Lincoln. I'm not going to be selfish and not say that we're not going to do anything, but I will listen to what the plans are, and at the end of the day, to see what is best for Lincoln short term and long term. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson? Yes.
Well, it's an interesting question, I agree. And part of what makes it difficult is the fact that our Board of Trustees and our alma mater doesn't share information with us. So how would you use land? We don't know what the needs of the university are. First of all, I think we have to consider there's a large plot of land across the street from the university. Does it make sense to use it as a business enterprise zone? Does it make sense, given the size of our alumni, does it make sense to create a profitable arrangement with them short term, where we share in their profits and our revenues are increased as they make money? You know, what are the needs of the students? What do the students need space for? Now, frankly, I can't imagine, because we have resources right now that we're not using, that we're closing down. The historic university is going to, if they have their way, be subject to the wrecking ball. So when we start talking about using new space, we need to start thinking about how we're using our existing space. As we have allowed the Bond House to decay, as we have allowed, Lincoln Hall or Houston Hall to be shut down? Is that what comes next? Because we don't use our assets well? I alluded to the swimming pool before. I mean, you're doing to the swimming pool today what you did to Houston Hall over the years. You get assets and you destroy them. So I think that the question about land use is a question that has to do with what are the needs, what are the academic needs of the students, what is the student health or the student welfare, the life cycle here at Lincoln. What does it demand? It's interesting to me that when you're here, could we have a swim party? Do we have bowling parties? Do we even think about the needs of the students? Or are we still running a 1930 step and fetch it operation here where we're not growing because we've not matured? So I think what we need to do is to consider what our needs are, and we don't know what they are because the Board of Trustees keeps that a secret.
I have to piggyback on to what Jackson was speaking on. I know over the last few years, an organization, acronym is LUHI, has been pushing to get Lincoln to get the campus that we have here today, or the buildings designated as historical buildings, which could bring funds in without, and this is on land that's already developed. And for use of undeveloped land right now, I think first you would have to look at the feasibility of putting or providing that land for any businesses, whether they be commercial or residential or whatever, the feasibility of those of that land being profitable to the university to provide funds on a yearly basis, and more so on a long-term basis. Yes, you may have to give some tax benefits to whoever gets to use that land, but it can't be for like 99 years. And I think that using those two views, that it could be beneficial to not just the students, but also to the alumni of the university.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your response thus far. This is your final question. Ready? All right. If elected, what strategies can you propose to meet your intended goals? Mayor?
Yeah.
Mr. Carvin, would you like to start?
Sure. One of the key issues is getting feedback and being available for our alumni. As an alumni trustee representative, first and foremost, we need to make sure we're providing information back to our alumni, but also it's a two-way street. We need to hear from the alumni in terms of what are their concerns. So I would, since I'm retired, would be looking at scheduling appointments with various alumni associations, various chapters, getting feedback from them, and also soliciting ideas. But it's a two-way street. And one of the things that we also need to do, and I know a number of alumni chapters are doing it, in terms of getting involved with the admissions department, which my wife and I have done for a number of years in terms of going after students and representing the university at college fairs. But the feedback from parents is extremely important. And one of the things is that we have to hold our administration accountable for the lack of feedback. There have been many instances where I've pushed for students to get into Lincoln. They've come down, they've seen the campus, they fell in love with the campus, they want to become members become students here at Lincoln, but yet when they call to various offices here at Lincoln. They don't get any response, or no one gets back to them. I had an example, my fraternity. Very quickly, my fraternity, we give out scholarships, we give out scholarships for young men in the Bergen County area. And I was joking with a young man from Hackensack who we had given a scholarship to, and as I was leaving with his father, he decided to go to Norfolk State because no one at Lincoln had gotten back in touch with him. But that's where his son wanted to go, and that's where he wanted his son to go. But because Lincoln did not get back to them, they looked at the next school below, and they kept going. We have to hold people accountable, and it starts with the administration and that feedback. We have to do a better job of writing ourselves and then responding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson.
I was glad to hear Mac allude to his fraternity cap out. So I think all three of us have a tendency to be fond of that organization. Let me say that for me, we've got to build relationships. We've got to build relationships in the board. We've got to build relationships that are outside of the board. The board has to build relationships with the Alumni Association, with the students, and with the faculty. We are smarter as a collective than we are as individuals. And the university cannot continue to graduate talented people, claim that they're doing a phenomenal job, and not bring that talent to bear on this university's future, all right, and its existence. We have got to build those relationships. Carol Black, there's been an allusion to trying to preserve the historic university. Carol Black has been at the forefront of that for years. The university nixes the idea without any consideration of, is there external funding? We have to build relationships with the legislature. Talk to the members of the board who are legislators, and they will tell you that unlike the Penn State, unlike the other state schools, Lincoln University's board does not go to Harrisburg and lobby for the money that it needs. That means our board is not doing its job. We need to build relationships. We need to be looking at you. How could we shut the historic university down with a history department that contributed to the historic Brown versus the Board of Education decision? How can we do that when we have people in the community who are developers and talented, who have friends who are architects and can help us? We have to stop this notion that this board can stand on its own alone and that we can be ignored. We're going to have to build relationships, and the relationships in the board are going to have to foster relations that are external to the board. We're going to have to build strong relationships with the Alumni Association. It's interesting to me, being elected to the board is not a popularity contest. This is about business. This is about the business of our alma mater. And we're going to have to get busy and take care of it. Nobody's calling back about the students who want to go here. A friend of mine pledges $1,000 to the university. Nobody bothers to get his name. I mean, it's legend that I came here with an idea, talked to the person who was supposed to be raising money for the university. He told me he'd get back to me. I've never heard from him again. I mean, the board is charged with the responsibility of making sure that the corporate officers are held accountable, and they're not doing that. And we've slipped from 15th to 17th on U.S. News and World Report.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, I shall. Hold on one second. The final question was, if elected, what strategies can you propose to meet your intended goals?
Well, to begin with, over the last 4 years, I've built on relationships with alumni from various parts of the, mainly on the Eastern Coast. And from that, by listening to them, I have heard various reasons why or why not they've been active. And everyone doesn't fit in the same box. Some people have an emphasis on the sports, others may emphasize athletics, and others the arts. We need to consider and listen to all of any proposals that are given, and the best of those needed to be presented strongly to the board. What I would like to do as a trustee would be to assist in pushing those ideas and break away from the history of, if it's not thought of here, it's no good. For example, with the homecoming, or rather class reunions. You know, it was broached to us 4 years ago, the reason why the change was made to save funds. To this date, we've received no financial information as to what it would cost for the alumni to provide those funds so it can go back to Med, which would then allow us to give our monies to the Lincoln University versus having to go a half an hour away at a minimum and giving those funds to a hotel. I would also like, one idea I have is to work on the committee in assisting professors in receiving grants. I know we have a lot of people here with financial backgrounds. Like Scott Fields himself is in the business of helping small business develop, and basically that's what a professor is when he goes out for these grants. He also needs some financial expertise, you know, to present his cost analysis of what he would use the funds for. He may be highly skilled in his own profession, but not necessarily in finance. And that's one thing that I would like to push as a trustee member.
Well, gentlemen, you did an excellent job. Thank you so much. At this time, we're going to open the floor for questions. Yes, madam.
Okay, my name is Francis Paul. For the sake of the record, trustee Francis Paul, class of the noble and divine 1979. Thank you, 79. But my serious question is this. Aside from any of the elected alumni trustees, have you spoken with any trustees? And if you have you expressed your concerns with them and the concerns of alumni? And if you would, let us know the names of those trustees who you have spoken with.
Yes, I have spoken to trustees. Joe Williams, who's in the back.
Not elected alumni trustees.
Oh, non-elected, okay, appointed. Maceo Davis, Sharman, and I have talked, is she elected?
Sharman is elected.
Okay.
Alumni.
Is Dr. Bennett, who I believe is emeritus. We've had several conversations about the situation here at Lincoln and about the board. So yes, I've had those conversations. Is there a second part to your question? I'm sorry.
No, that's really it. I just wanted to know. And if you have, your discussions that you had with them, thank you.
Seems like we run in the same circles, because I've spoken to Maceo Davis, who, one of his trips up to North Jersey for a Capra Fair, we spoke about things that were going on at Lincoln, and I've also spoken to Sharman.
Sharman's alumni trustee.
Then, so it's only Maceo Davis that I've spoken with.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we've all spoken with Maceo for some odd reason.
Yeah.
But other than Maceo, I've spoken briefly with Senator Denneman, and that about covers it. But I think it's also important that we get to speak with the administrators here in the various departments, as well as faculty, to see what they need, because they also need partners in getting across what their needs are as well. And that's what I think that we would need to do.
Are there any more questions? Yes?
Yes. I'm Joe Williams, I'm a trustee, and I'm class of 68, the class of 68. One of the things that was interesting for me to find out is that when we go to board meetings, we're not given any pre-package, only the week before. And that kind of bothers me because there's a lot of stuff that's given to you 10 days or a week before, and you need discussion on, and none of that brought up at the board meeting. What would you do to change that if you were elected a trustee?
Well, to me, it seems like there may be a lack of planning on someone's part, because you should never receive a package a week before. You're going to need time. Email. You're going to need time to review it, to research it. And we talk about communication and transparency. That's an opportunity when we know what is on the agenda, that we can get feedback from alums to bring back to the Board of Trustees. To me, it would be something simple as, the question is, why are we waiting till the 11th hour to send out the package? Because we know what we're going to discuss. And if we don't know, then why are we hastily putting together a package? And is there really a need for that meeting? But the cynicism sometimes comes out, are we just trying to review things that certain people have already decided on, that they're just going to ramrod? That cannot occur. So the question goes back, and building coalitions that, we're a board, but we also have our own opinions, and we represent people. And that's something that it's not good for the Lincoln brand, because we end up spinning our wheels trying to answer questions that we could get answers or input from had we had more time to review it.
I hope that Mac is right, that this is the product of poor planning. But perhaps it is the product of planning. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, the members of the board have fiduciary responsibilities. They have personal liability for their behavior. If they're not exercising better business judgment, they're liable. If they're exercising a conflict, they're operating in a conflict of interest, they're liable. If what you're doing to board members is springing issues on them a week ahead of time, where they don't have an opportunity to consider it fully, then you're putting them at risk. And it is phenomenal to me that board members would sit and allow that kind of circumstance to jeopardize their personal assets. So again, you've got to build the coalition in the board. You have to build the relationships. You have to educate people to what their corporate responsibilities are and what their liability is, and you have to get them to change the rule. If we have the majority of the votes on the board, then we can change the behavior. But if we're going to just follow the leader, then we have abdicated our responsibilities as trustees to the university. And it can't happen that way.
After building the coalition, the main thing that I would need to do is to speak up when I think there's something wrong, such as the issue that was brought up with the delay in receiving the minute or the agenda for the meeting. Because you can build all the coalitions that you want, but if you just follow that coalition without speaking out, you still have achieved nothing. We see that in Washington today. And we need, as far as building that coalition, is to get those other people in that group to speak up, to act as if they're concerned and not just be a rubber stamp for everything that comes across the table. Like at the last board meeting, it was brought up that they were raising $50,000 for a kitchen in the apartment-style living dorm. One small kitchen for the entire building. That didn't seem feasible to me. But it didn't appear as though that the board members had the opportunity to vote yay or nay on it. It was given to them, and also they were challenged to come up with the funds to build the thing. We need to speak out on issues such as that, you know. And I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, that was in the agenda. And that needs to stop. And again, the only way you can change that is to speak up and have that coalition back you up.
Like class of 67, I certainly agree with you regarding the need to build relationships and coalitions with not only alumni, but the students, the faculty, and the staff. I guess what my question is, what tools or what do you do? You want to do these things, how will you go about doing it? For instance, and I was telling that most of you have not had an opportunity to talk to the members of the Board of Trustees. And I think you'll be never see them. And even on the day of the Board of Trustees meeting, unless you're in that room, you're not going to see them until the next board meeting. How do we really engage the trustees in the life of the university?
Well, I agree with you, Carol, because, you know, it really bothered me when I went to graduation last year, and the only trustee members that I saw up on that stage were the alumni elected trustees. Not a single one of the appointed trustees was there. And that makes it look like they don't really care about Lincoln. And to be honest, I would approach them with that. Do you really care? Or are you just here to build up your resume? What are you going to do? Jack mentioned earlier that we don't have anyone as our leader going to Harrisburg seeking funds, and most of the trustees come from, or a large portion of the trustees come from Harrisburg. What are they doing to get funding for Lincoln? Now, what are you doing here? And I don't see a problem with being blunt about it, because if I'm there, I'm going to be there, and they're going to be there too. So you're either going to be a friend, a partner in moving Lincoln forward and keeping Lincoln's survival up in the forefront. So let's work together, because I'm not going to be there to be liked because I'm buddy with you, or you know, I hang out with you. We're doing work. You know, this is a job, and that goes into Joe's point. You know, most people here have their own business or work to deal with. They don't have time to sit down and read through a load of information at the last minute. You know. That's why we have to speak up and then just be true to your beliefs.
Well, I sound like I'm a broken record, but it's all about relationships. It's about coalitions. And, you know, I agree with Kenny. You know, the reality is that a lot of our board members are there because saying you're a member of a board of trustees looks good on your resume. But, you know, there are those fiduciary responsibilities, and people need to understand that somebody is watching them in terms of those responsibilities. It's interesting. Have you ever gone online and looked at the board minutes? If you do, you might know more about what transpired than you knew before you turned on your computer. The report of the Finance Committee was accepted. What report? What did the Finance Committee report? I mean, you don't know that. So if you're going to build relationships, I think you have to start believing, until proven differently, that people are operating in good faith. I think you have to approach them individually. You have to build that individual relationship. You have to establish your credibility and let them know that you expect them to be credible too. You have to call them to the fore. You have to, when things aren't going right, perhaps sometimes you're going to have to stymie the process, by having the votes to defeat a motion. You know, if you have the votes, then you say, you know, reports that are, issues that are to be considered by the board are going to be provided to the board members 30 days in advance of any board meeting. If you have the votes, you've got the power. So you've got to build those relationships. What is it that is keeping people away from active participation in this university community? And they may show up at the board meeting, but what is it that keeps them away from us? Not here, us. All right? And so what we have to do is go talk to them. What is the problem? You know, there's been discussion about Maceo Davis. Maceo Davis is one of my dearest friends. Fact of the matter is, Maceo Davis has a brokerage firm in Philadelphia and needs to run that brokerage firm. How can we accommodate him and get him more active? You know, and the same is true of other board members.
I think one of the key areas is that I would personally, one-on-one, make time to introduce myself to other board members that are not alums. I think one of the problems is that those non-alum trustees are being given information perhaps by one individual. And when that occurs, it seems like the votes are already there. To me, I really don't think that those non-trustee alumni board members really know what is going on at Lincoln University. And they're basing their votes on what they're being told by probably one or maybe two individuals. That has to stop, okay? We need to establish and build one-on-one relationships so that that old majority now becomes the minority. And we have a majority that has the best interest in Lincoln. And I would challenge those
Any more questions from the floor?
We have one more question.
One more.
This gentleman, yes.
David Payne, class 1995. I've heard mentioned and very true the decline of Lincoln University. Lincoln became, as you know, state affiliated in 1973, 45 years ago, or 72. I personally believe, and I believe the metrics back that up, that if you were to look at, as mentioned earlier, the U.S. News and World Report rankings, the schools to consistently rank at the top of those rankings, and not only U.S. News and World Report, but other unbiased or studies, that the ones that are private, that are self-funded, who control their own path, who don't have state-appointed board members, who control their own destiny. Lincoln University was private until 1972. If you were to superimpose the graph of the decline of Lincoln University with that date, I think they would correlate a lot of that decline with the affiliation, with the dependency. Most recently, Lincoln University didn't have funding for almost 2 years because of an impasse in Harrisburg. So my question is, why are we not having a discussion, or why has the discussion not started in Lincoln, starting the process to independence, returning to privatization? We've taken an experiment for 45 years. It does not work. States have shown, as evidenced recently in the state of North Carolina, states are attempting to take away funding from HBCUs, and they eventually will. So I ask of all three of you, are you proponents of privatization of Lincoln University? And if it was popular agreement among alums, would you support such an initiative?
Is it Mr.
1
Payne?
minute apiece.
Is it Mr. Payne?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Payne, let me say this to you. You know, that's an interesting question because you're right. The history of Lincoln University is that in the midst of segregation, Jim Crow, slavery even, Lincoln University flourished. What happened to us is, and we got very accustomed to having our hand out to Harrisburg and depending on Harrisburg for assets that we needed. Now, the fact of the matter is that if you look at alumni giving, it's not good. All right, it's just a reality. How do you keep the doors swinging open? The most important thing at Lincoln University is to keep that traffic coming in here. and educating students well. And so I'm not sure that privatization would pay off in the long run. But I'm also not sure that this syndrome, this almost welfare-esque notion of we've got to have our hand out to Harrisburg for everything is a good thing either. I mean, Harrisburg robbed us of the Barnes Foundation, of the Barnes Collection. So, you know, and in this political milieu, if we're naive enough to believe that we as poor little black people are going to somehow get some good treatment from Massa, whether he's in Harrisburg or he's in Washington, D.C., we are naive and absolutely deluded. So we've got to, I don't think the issue is privatization. I think the issue is when are we going to determine that we're going to be self-sufficient? All right, and that's not necessarily privatization. That means we're going to run Lincoln University and we're going to make it the best it can be.
I looked at the list also because I was concerned with the fact that we dropped from 17 and went up to 20. As a matter of fact, I even asked the president the question, did anyone get back to U.S. News and World Report to find out what metrics were used? And did somebody ask the question, where did we fail? Because we were definitely going in the wrong direction. But one of the things that's on that list is that the majority of those schools are private, but there are some public schools also. I mean, I look at North Carolina A&T, I look at North Carolina Central University. I look at Tuskegee, which a lot of people would think is a private school, but Tuskegee receives funds from Alabama. Howard University received federal funds. I think one of the questions is that why aren't we leveraging and being in Harrisburg and holding people accountable to give us what we request as opposed to accepting what we're getting in, okay? You've got Penn State, you've got Temple, you've got University of Pittsburgh with people there lobbying on their behalf, and they're getting their funding. We're not. We need to demand the same accountability from Harrisburg as those other schools, okay? I was here when we went from a private school under Dr. Branson to state-related. And the issue at that time was that Lincoln was suffering financially, okay? And the state came in to help us, quote unquote, financially. But we didn't hold Harrisburg accountable for what was ours to begin with. And we settled for as opposed to demanding our due. And that's what we have to look at. Now, the other point of your question, though, is that would I listen to, absolutely, I would listen to the pros and cons. But I want to make it perfectly clear that I looked at that list too, and that there are schools that are public schools that have been on that list and they continue. I even question the fact that how can Elizabeth City State jump ahead of us and they've got financial issues? You know, what are they looking at the metrics and stuff? And that's the type of information that students and potential stakeholders are looking at when they want to send their prized resources to Lincoln University. Accountability and demand.
Gentlemen, you gonna respond, Mr. Poole?
I can respond. To be honest, David, I hadn't even considered that question. I believe all three of us up here were here during that transition from a private school, you know, to a state dependent school. And we were also here, lucky to be here, when it transitioned from an all-male school to a co-ed school, which was also done because of Lincoln's financial issues prior to females being here. And to Jack's point, we have to become self-sufficient before we can even consider about becoming a private school again, because we would lose whatever funding we do get from the state. So we have to begin there. The way we begin there is to get more alumni involved who want to save Lincoln, who would like it to be a private institution again, before we can even consider that issue. But it's not falling on deaf ears.
The last question is coming from me.
Oh, man.
As an alumni from the class of '76, what can I expect by voting either one of you guys? You need to answer that in 10 words or less.
One word, accessibility.
Mr. Carter?
Commitment.
Mr. Poole?
Do what I said I would.
Could you repeat that?
Do what I said I would.
Okay.
That's good.
That concludes the forum for the trustees.
All right, great job, gentlemen, thank you. Great job, great job. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you again to the potential candidates. We really appreciate the fact that you have committed to coming out. We have some wonderful questions for you, but before we begin the questions, I would like for each of you to please introduce yourself with your name, your class, and pertinent biographical information. And mostly, why do you desire to be the president of the Alumni Association of Lincoln University? Mr. Braxton, I'll begin with you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the Nominations and Elections Committee for hosting this forum. So thank you. United we stand, divided we fall. United we stand, divided we fall. Greetings, my Lincoln University family. My name is Darryl Braxton. I'm from the class of 1992, and I currently reside in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm asking you today for your vote to be the next president of the Alumni Association of Lincoln University. When I first got involved with the Alumni Association, there was only one chapter, and that was the Philadelphia chapter. I decided at that time that my talents and skill set was best served on a national level. At the time, the Philadelphia chapter was under the leadership of George McGriff, and then it went on to Robin Torrance. So Philadelphia was well at hand. I decided to run for treasurer. I ran for treasurer in 2013, was elected, and then re-elected again in 2015. Unite, engage, recruit, and donate. That's my mission for every alum, whether you're in this association or not. Finally, I ask that you support my running mates, Dr. Mita Timmons, class of 79, she's running for vice president, and Donald Quint, class of 1991, she's running for treasurer. We are the Unity campaign because we're going to bring everyone together. Maintaining our legacy and heritage while moving Lincoln University forward. Thank you.
Mr. Fields.
Good afternoon, everybody. So first of all, let me actually say thanks for actually having this also. Thanks for Darryl for joining me actually up here. My name is Ernest Scott Fields. Most of you know me as Scott Fields. I'm also class of 1992, so I graduated with this guy. Okay. He walked first though. Just kind of give you a little bit of background on who I am. Like I said, I graduated in 1992. Pretty much started my first business 2 years right after that. I'm a serial entrepreneur. So currently right now, I actually own about 3 businesses right now. I am not coming back to Lincoln. I have actually never left. Since I've graduated, I've actually had consistent family here as students that I've actually personally recruited, and also friends of family that I've also personally recruited. One of the things I'm actually currently doing now, I'm actually currently hiring some of these actual students. But one of the things I see as far as why I'm running for president is that I see that there is a major disconnect actually at Lincoln. So Jack actually mentioned here that Lincoln is broken. Well, you know what? He's actually right, okay? It is broken. It is broken on a lot of different levels. And one of the main things we actually have on the alumni level that we do not actually have any camaraderie whatsoever, okay? There is a whole bunch of disconnect actually as far as how we turn around and we want to get back to Lincoln, why we should turn around and actually give back, and all that actually needs to change. And that's what I'm planning on trying to do.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, we have 4 questions that we would like to ask you. The first question is, what qualities or qualifications do you have that set you apart from the current presidential administration of the Alumni Association of Lincoln University?
This one, you want me to go first?
You can go first, yes.
Well, I'm a part of the current LU Alumni Association Administration. One of the things that I can tell you is that I will respect everyone's opinion and everyone's voice. I bring leadership, project management. Scott is a business person. I'm also a business person. 20 years of business experience running 2 different companies, thousands of events I've done all over the country. I'm a team player, and I think those attributes will lead me well.
Thank you. Mr. Fields.
Okay, thank you. So what am I actually bringing different? Well, I think one of the main things is, one of the things that we need basically here is we really need somebody who actually has an entrepreneurship mindset. Being able to actually how to run a business. It's one thing basically to actually be in a position where you're pretty much just going to be in the managerial role, okay? And not being accountable to your constituents, okay? Which in my opinion, that is exactly what we have here right now, okay? In my opinion, I've actually seen it and actually experienced that there is a point of actual disrespect from our current administration to the actual alumni population. That has to actually change. There's a reason why this alumni population do not really want to support, thank you. I'm sorry, is this on? Okay, there's a reason why our current alumni association giving is very dismal. There's a reason why our alumni chapters tend to be a lot more successful than actually on the national level, because they understand what they're getting in their rate of return from their actual giving, from their time, from their money, to their souls. This is what we are not getting actually on the national level. No disrespect, basically, to the man I'm sitting actually next to. But I think that there's a different mindset that we need to bring into this actual table.
Thank you. Gentlemen, the local chapter of AALU have had various fundraising activities. What type of fundraising initiatives on the national level do you propose?
Well, there's several that I propose. One is to continue the 10 for 10 giving campaign. That was very successful the year that we ran it. And the second one that Bentley colleges did, they had a cruise, an alumni cruise. They sold 90 cabins, and a portion of every cabin went back to the Alumni Association. So that's something that I look to bring to Lincoln University on a national basis.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to disagree actually with Darryl. I think our 10 for 10 campaign was a dismal failure. We raised $1,900, okay? That's a dismal failure. You know, the Florida A&M, who really kind of started that program, raised over $200,000 just off of the 10 for 10. We need to stop with this penny ante, high school and elementary type of fundraising, okay? There are so many different ways that we can actually raise money. Has anyone actually even spoken to Cheney University? Yes, they were in trouble, but when they were back to the wall, they turned around and raised $500,000 in a 2-year period. Has anyone ever spoken to them on how to actually do that? I have, okay? So some of the things that we can simply actually do, why don't we actually do a text marketing campaign? That's something that we could probably put together within, you know, a week of getting squared away that goes out consistently. Mirror the actual what some of these other schools actually do to try to turn around and raise money. IUP, for example, turns around and actually does a text marketing campaign that raises over $18,000 in a day. Why can't we raise $1,854 basically in a month? I think it's actually doable. You know, so we're talking about what the Philadelphia chapter has actually done. Yeah, the Philadelphia chapter raises a pretty decent amount of money. So does the actual, the Chester County actual chapter. You guys did a fantastic job, okay? So there's a point that we need to learn how to actually fundraise. Let's reach out to some of these outside wealth managers at other schools who understand how to do it. Let's work with the university's Department of Institutional Affairs to actually work in and bring in additional money. Let's work with these actual local chapters so we have a concerted effort where we're going to be raising some serious actual money. We just can't turn around and say, hey, look, send some actual some money. Hopefully we actually get it. That doesn't work anymore, okay? And then turn around and trying to actually make money actually off of the spread off of actual cabins. That's not going to actually turn around and actually work. It's not going to make any type of money. We need to start looking bigger and better.
Thank you, gentlemen. The next question is, what is your vision of the AALU moving forward? Mr. Gregson, please.
No, I'm going to take one. My vision for the Alumni Association, again, is to unite, engage, recruit, and donate. That's the mission of our organization. It's very simple. I believe that I have the ability to bring all stakeholders together and unite under one common cause. As Matt Coffin said, we are family, and at times we're going to disagree. But I feel that if we can agree 80% of the time, we're going to be all right. I'm here today because I want to continue the job that we started in 2013. We've come a long way, but we have work to do. We established a lot of chapters. The chapters are currently in various stages of operation. Some chapters are thriving, and some chapters need help. The first stage was getting the chapters up and running. The second stage is making those chapters sustainable. I love the alumni arch. Love it. But I think it's time that this generation of alumni comes together for another major project. So I'm calling for us to restore and rebuild the bond house. I believe that one project will unite us all together.
One of the main things that I think we need to do to actually move forward, I've been saying this for the longest time, we need to fix our house. That is the bottom line. We need to actually start from there. First thing that we need to do, we need to have a consistent communications platform to get the word out of what is going on from the university down to the students. We do not have any of that right now. Right now, we're constantly just using some various Facebook groups. That's it. The second thing that we need to actually have, we need to fix our actual finances. The National Alumni Association finances, in my opinion, is in a dismal shape. We've been averaging roughly what, between $25,000 to $40,000 basically in our operating account. That's horrible. No organization that has that's basically claiming they have 1,000 members should actually have that little bit amount of money. Okay? So we need to actually fix our finances. We need an audit. We've been calling for an audit for the longest time. Now, no audit. Let's go back and start setting up those groups basically that we need to actually have as far as our financials, our sunshine basically to turn around and know when folks are actually passing away. We need to have all that actually in place. The third thing we need to have some sort of stewardship to these actual students. These students out here right now don't give excuse my language, don't give a crap basically about any of us actually right now, because we do not have any type of mentorship or stewardship back to them at this particular point. I see there's two people actually in this room right now who I know personally who've actually hired students out here. And yes, those students actually are probably grateful for that. But outside of all those, they don't actually know because no one's actually talking to them. No one's actually guiding them on what it needs to be for them to be Lincoln men and Lincoln women. They will show up for a photo op, but that's about it. So we need to change our, so those are the three things that we need actually. We need to fix our communications, we need to fix our finances, okay? That's all, let's be clear. We all heard that saying, there's no romance without finance, that's the same thing. And then, like I said, we need to fix that stewardship.
This is the final question. I'm
The
sorry.
finances of the association are.
Oh, we ain't in a big debate, brother.
Just leave that clear.
Okay, gentlemen, this is the final question. Here we go. It's actually a two-part question. The Alumni Association of Lincoln University has 6 board of trustee positions. Do you believe this is adequate representation? And the second part asks, how many positions on the board of trustees do you believe the AALU should have? Mr. Briggs.
Given the size of the board, I would say 6 is not adequate. If you look at other universities, most other universities, their boards are 12 members, 15 members. Lincoln's board is over 40 members, and we only have 6. So representative size, we should have more elected alumni trustees based on the size. Now, I believe our board is too big, but that was because they added so many of the state trustees to the board. What was the second part of the question?
I think you answered it. The second part of the question was, how many positions on the board of trustees should the AALU have?
Based on the size of the board, we probably should have at least 2 more positions, 2 to 4. So to have 10 alumni trustees on the board, based on the size of our current board.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fields?
I'm gonna be actually short and sweet to this one because I'm agreeing with Darryl right now. I think our board is actually also way too big. I think there's a point, there's way too many appointees actually on the actual board, in my opinion, who do not bring anything to the table. So we've all actually said that. So in that regard, I do think right now we have 6. I don't think it's representative enough. So yeah, in my opinion, we really need to reduce that actual board to fit that actual number. It should be, right now, I'm gonna have to agree with Darryl that we really need about another 2, 4 actual people actually on that board if we're gonna turn around and keep that size. But I'm gonna focus more, not focus, but I'm actually agreeing that I think we need to reduce that actual size because we're not getting a whole lot of things actually done in some capacity.
Thank you. Well, that concludes the questions. Are there any questions from the floor? All right. Mr. Ingram?
Is there a mic?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
I'm sorry. Can I make a point? Can I make a point? Sure. Let me
You'll have a session.
Okay. All right.
Robert Ingram, President of the Alumni Association of Lincoln University. First of all, I want to commend both of you gentlemen. I think it says a lot about our association that people want to contest an office. Certainly, I think it says something about my administration, whether you think that's good or bad. My question is for Mr. Fields. Mr. Fields, it's pretty much a fact that you haven't really been active leading any committees on the local level. As far as I know, I don't see any record on a regional level. I looked at your bio, great bio, an incredible business career, and I commend you on that. But I don't see one mention of the AALU. What is it, other than the same kind of platform that 45 in the White House is running on, that puts you in a position where you feel you're qualified and that we can have any degree of confidence that you can take this association to the next level? Oh, we only got one mic? One mic?
We're working on
Come on.
We're working on it.
Working on it, bro.
All right, so thank you very much, Mr. Ingram. Listen, let me ask that question. You know what? You're 1% right. I'm not actually on any committee. Doesn't mean that I'm not actually working with that with the my actual local chapter. Not at all. Okay? And I'm pretty certain, basically, my local chapter will tell you otherwise. Okay? Secondly, what do I actually bring to the table? Well, let's back up for 1 second here. Please do not actually even confuse me in one way, shape, or form, basically, with our current president, okay, of the United States, okay? So let's get that actually clear. But what do I bring to the table? Well, let's be honest, okay? Right now, like I said, I have three businesses. Always been an actual business owner, and I've always actually had employees, okay? My number one role to my actual employee, to my company, is to safeguard my actual employees, okay? So not only do you, when you're actually in a position of leadership, you have a responsibility to those that you are actually leading. It is something that we have to actually do. I'm sorry that, Bob, I'm going to disagree that I don't think that's what we're getting right now, okay? Just man to man. But right now, I think that's what I actually bring. What I also actually bring is a different set of mindset, okay, of what I'm able to actually bring here. I know I actually have the social background to actually turn around and do this. I have the actual business background to turn around and actually do this. I know that there are certain things that we can actually do that we need to stop thinking outside the box and stop doing things the way we've always been doing, basically in the 80s and 70s. It's got to change. I'm sorry, that wasn't a question.
Any other questions? Mr. Banks? Banks?
Yeah, I want to state for the record that I think this question, the nature of the question, is very characteristic of the very confrontational, partisan, and acrimonious tenure that our current president has held. If you dissect what he said, it's me, wanting to make reference to his tenure. I think it's time that we have a president that leads everybody, not just partisan, not just their class, not just their frat, not just their friends. We need a president that takes the input of the ALU and presents that as an elected official. You serve your constituency, not the other way around. Again, evidenced by the statements made by our current president using...
Is there a question?
Yes, there is a question. It's not your place. There is a question.
From the beginning, this is
I didn't
supposed to be
interrupt
civil.
you. Why are you interrupting me?
Civil. Answer your question.
So my question is, and this was asked, but I don't feel appropriately addressed. One of two positions you have. Do you approve of the current administration? Do you disapprove of the current administration? And if you approve, do you intend to continue the current direction? And if you disapprove, how are you going to detour from that direction?
Well, that's the record. I approve of the current.
This is for both candidates, not just one.
I approve of the current administration 100%, Mr. Payne. Bob and I have different styles. My style is just different. But I approve of the direction of the Alumni Association from where we were in 2012 prior to where we are today. You just don't really know. And we've come leaps and bounds. Are we perfect? No. We're not perfect. Are we there yet? No. The first job was to establish chapters, which we did. Now we're going to get those chapters functioning at the level of a Philadelphia, at the level of a Baltimore, at the level of a coastal Virginia. But I hope I answered your question. We have different styles, but I approve of the direction of the Alumni Association, and we're going to continue in that direction.
Can I ask a question?
Who's got it?
Yes, it's for both candidates.
Okay, so, to answer your question, no, I don't actually approve of it. You just brought it actually up, and I'm glad you brought it up instead of me. You know, like you just said, it was always about, okay, let me actually point out your deficiencies, basically, instead of asking for your assistance. One of the things I think that we really miss out is from the national level, is that we do not actually have the local chapters as our actual brain trust, okay? There is so much that we could actually do, basically, as far as that. One of the other things that I think we need to actually make a change for is that we need to, again, like I said, we need to fix our actual house. Darryl just brought up basically that we set up all these actual chapters. Well, let's be honest. There are some chapters basically who are not actually doing anything because there is not an actual plan. There's not a process basically to bring in and set up these actual chapters. Basically, I'm looking at Mr. Teal right here basically right now for the New Jersey chapter, Southern New Jersey chapter. This man still doesn't have a nonprofit status. That's insane to me. So we should be, where we're going to be setting up these actual chapters, let's set them up so that they turn around and know what they need to do, how to actually handle their actual business, what needs to get done. So that when we have those actual issues in-house and there's a problem, we don't have the same type of mistakes that we just actually had in DC.
Williams?
Gentlemen, I had the distinction of being president of Alumni Association years ago. I will say for the record for everybody, the university had a philosophy, the Alumni Association didn't count. I can't tell you how many opportunities this school had to build the Alumni Association and build its coffers from the Alumni Association. I won't go into that right now. If you want to, I'll gladly sit down with you. One of the things I want to say to you, I'm glad that you gentlemen are seeking the office. I'm excited about what's happening. The thing that you got to understand is that we're coming awake. We're coming as alumni. We're understanding what's going on. As a trustee, I see a lot that's going on. But I want to let you know, it's not going to happen the way that you think it's going to happen. But I want to let you know, we're on the road.
Any other questions from the board?
I have a question. Actually, it's not a question, it's just a point of clarification from Mr. Payne. You stated that the question was what moves were needed that would set them apart from the current presidential administration. The question was, what qualities or qualifications do you have that set you apart from the current presidential administration of the Alumni Association of Lincoln University? So I just wanted to make a point of clarification. The question concerned your qualifications to be in the office of the presidency. That was the question.
This will be your closing.
Yes. All right.
So restate that, please.
Yes. Restate the question.
Yeah, just
Was
restate.
that a question, or you would just make
No,
a
just a
point?
point of reference.
Point of reference, okay.
Yes, yes. So that concludes.
From the floor,
Are there any questions?
right now, we're gonna have
Yes, oh, they're closing, yes, thank
the
you.
closers.
Yes.
3 minutes apiece.
Gentlemen,
Closing statement.
Some of the strategies that I plan to bring to this position is communication, communication, and more communication. I want to see that all stakeholders are unified. That's the Board of Trustees, that's our president, that's our students, and that's our faculty. I want to work together with the new president and with the new board in forging a new direction for the Alumni Association. I want to establish quarterly meetings with the new president or his key staff. I would like to ask our elected trustees that after each board meeting, that they prepare a statement for the Alumni Association that we can then pass out to each member. Because the minutes are the ministers. The ministers are, they're not adequate. I also want to establish an alumni presence, an AAFE presence on the university website. If you look at most universities, there's several pages of alumni activity on the website, whereas Lincoln University, we only have a link to our page. So thank you.
First, let me actually say, again, I just actually want to thank Daryl for actually being up here with me. I don't feel alone. But let me say this. Change is scary. We all understand that. But change is necessary. We need to move into a new direction. We need to actually start back and go back to the basics. That's fundamental. So we need to actually do that. So part of what I'm planning on actually doing is actually doing that. You have to actually scale back to actually sometimes to actually grow. We do that actually with a rose all the time. So this is what we actually have. This is actually our rose. Let's actually turn around and prune all the bad that's actually is currently going on right now and get down to those actual, and clean up those actual weeds so we can actually grow a whole lot better. I think that's what we actually need to get done.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Second section of the officers, be the vice president candidates. Peter Timmons, Mr. Till. We would not, after this, we will not have the treasurer. The treasurer couldn't make it. The treasurer candidate, Ms. Donald Quinn, could not make it today. So this will be the final session of the forum.
Good job.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to attend the forum. We're going to begin the question with the question we've been asking everybody all day. Same thing. And what I would like for you to do is please introduce yourself with your name, class, pertinent biographical information, and why do you desire to become Vice President of the Alumni Association of Lincoln University? And I'll start with Dr. Timmons first.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank the Nominations Committee for setting up this great experience for us. I think this is about the third year in a row
Right.
we've done this. I think this is
Yes.
I think this is about the third year in a row that we've had this type of experience, and it's been very beneficial. As she alluded to, I'm Dr. Peter Timmons, class of 1979. One of the strongest classes on this campus and from this university. I'm originally from Washington, D.C. If you had told me a year ago that I would be here, I probably would have said, no, I'm not going to do anything like this. As I was a caretaker for members of my family. I am retired, and I retired about 5 or 6 years ago. And I became a caretaker for my family since that time. Well, last year I lost my mother and my uncle, which were the last of the elder family. So that opened up some time for me. As I had been committed to Lincoln prior to that, it kind of opened the doors to even greater thinking of what I could do for Lincoln and how I could contribute. So that's how I came to be one of the candidates for the vice presidency. I got to Lincoln in 1975 after I graduated from high school and was a biology major. I graduated with honors in 1979, as I said, and then went on to become, went to Tuskegee University in Alabama to become a veterinarian. After finishing veterinary school after receiving my doctorate. I joined the United States Army, and I've had a career in the United States Army and the United States Public Health Service, and again, as I said, about 5 or 6 years ago, I retired. So life as a veterinarian has been totally contrasted for me in a different way. It's not been the same type of or stereotype of practice and so forth and so on. I've had a very different kind of career as a veterinarian. Through it all, though, I have held the banner of Lincoln University high, and have always not been afraid to put forward that I am a graduate of Lincoln University. So, thank you very much. Thank you.
Excuse me, can I give a round of applause for my fellow STEM graduate from Lincoln University?
All right.
This must be the intellectual part of the program.
Yes.
Mr. Baptist response. Good evening, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the committee as well as my fellow alumni. My name is Eric Teal, class of 1992. I graduated from Lincoln University with degrees in biology and chemistry. While here on campus, I was class president from freshman to my junior year when I had to leave, actually my sophomore year when I had to leave Lincoln University for my military obligation to serve in Operation Desert Storm. After leaving Lincoln University, I worked for a number of Fortune 100 companies in the areas of pharmaceutical and agricultural research. After leaving pharmaceutical research as a research scientist and project manager, I consulted with Booz Allen Hamilton and a number of other institutions, as well as setting up my own business. Some of you may know me as a publicist. Some of you may know from New Jersey that helped me with my local community service actions, as well as running for public office. At the end of the day, I'm a lifelong lion, a lifelong lover of my institution. As an Omega man, I like to say if there was no Lincoln, if there was no orange and blue, there would be no program growth. My AALU resume is I'm the president, the initial president of the Southern New Jersey, chapter of the Lincoln University Alumni Association. The reason why I wish to run for this auspicious office is I feel as though I'm a facilitator. As a project manager, as a former educator, as a scientist, it is my job to analyze, bring resources together to bring positive outcomes. As a fellow physician and scientist, that you know that very well, that's one of our strong attributes. So I'm glad to have a fellow scientist and such a worthy candidate who's sitting here next to me. I feel as though, as a former educator, the paradigm of higher education has changed. I was an adjunct professor for University of Phoenix, and actually before University of Phoenix, 8 in acquired accidents. Before their infamous president left her position and now is in North Carolina trying to eat HBCUs. Lincoln, as well as other HBCUs, are at the crossroads. We have old challenges, but we also have new challenges coming forward. I'm a facilitator. I'm a bridge builder. And I feel as though those attributes will greatly help not only Lincoln University, but our alumni. Thank you.
Thank you. This question is for both of you guys. I'm speaking specifically of your local AALU chapter. Would you please share with us your chapter accomplishments recently and your fundraising success?
Currently, I'm the president of the Southern New Jersey chapter of the AALU. Our initial fundraising operation was we had 2 movie screens, which we partnered with a number of local community service organizations. Unfortunately, due to some miscommunication, we had to forego a number of our fundraising efforts because of legal obligations in the state of New Jersey and what was required to set up what they call as a fictitious organization in order to do banking and recording in the state. Unfortunately, the lack of communication and some shortcomings in the previous, in the past has inhibited our fundraising efforts. However, we have still been very active recruiting. We've also been very active in doing community service as far as providing book bags, personal scholarships for individuals, and working with other organizations to augment and increase worthy students matriculating to Lincoln University.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would say to you that I have personally not aligned myself with any one chapter. I kind of find myself as the roving member of the chapters, if you will. It is not uncommon for me to support many chapters up and down the East Coast and many of the Lincoln events. Those of you who know me pretty much have seen me, and it is often joked sometimes by some that, where's your next road trip? Because again, I do support all Lincoln chapters. As a matter of fact, next week I'll be on the road again to the Tacoma chapter. But I would say to my worthy opponent here, you should not fret, because fundraising capability should not be limited by not having your individual number. I understand that you could have used the national chapter number for tax purposes in order to accomplish things. So I think if you had worked with the national chapter, you would have found that that would have been made available to you, and you would have been able to continue with fundraising activities. But I, again, have fully supported many activities. I look forward to working with the chapters. As a vice presidential candidate, one of the things I have talked to our presidential candidate about is the potential to open up additional chapters. Now, again, I know that we have issues with regard to our current chapters. Some are flourishing, and some are doing very well, and some are not. Some are struggling. But I also envision that we could potentially open chapters in the Caribbean as well as in Africa. It does not make sense for us to have a significant African student population and just abandon our African students and alumni once they leave Lincoln. So that's one of the visions that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. The next question asked, if you are elected vice president of the Alumni Association, what do you hope to accomplish as the vice president?
That's, oh, I'm sorry.
No, please. You can alternate.
I
There you go.
overstep. Well, again, working with Treasurer Braxton, candidate Braxton. One of the things that I propose is, I have a platform of my own, but I do fully support the platform of presidential candidate Braxton. But again, we're kind of aligned with some of the same things, and that would be to ensure that we have quarterly face-to-face meetings with the president of the university and or his or her representatives. And that is also to include the board trustees chair. It's my understanding that the board of trustees chair may be stepping down, I guess, this summer because she has reached her term limit. So whoever replaces her, we would look forward to working with that individual. Just briefly, I'd like to establish a student chapter on the campus of Lincoln, of the AALU. We cannot potentially grow our alumni association if we don't embrace our students. And I know myself as a student, I wasn't fully versed on what the Alumni Association did. And I think that has kind of carried over through the years. So I feel that if we have a quote-unquote student chapter of the Alumni Association, then that kind of will help to bring and transition students from student to full alumni chapter member once they graduate. So those are some of the things that I'm kind of looking at. They're more detailed in my platform.
My plans and my goals for the Alumni Association is one of, as candidate Fields said, one, we have to clean house first. We can put lipstick on the proverbial pig, but it'll still be the pig. We have to get our house in order. First and foremost, I will work with our treasurer, I will work with our president to get our internal business in order. Second thing, I will work on our branding. A lot of our alumni do not wish to work with or affiliate with the Alumni Association because we have a very bad brand. Perception is one's reality, and we have to change the perception of the Alumni Association by our fellow alumni, the students, as well as the university. I will reach out and build those bonds with our stakeholders so that we can move the Alumni Association forward to face the challenges that we have facing us today as well as tomorrow.
Thank you. This is the final question. What do you believe the Alumni Association's relationship with the university should encompass?
The Alumni Association should be in constant communication with the university. We are a stakeholder. The university is a business. We have to show that, one, we are not an absentee landlord. We are not an absentee stakeholder. We need to be visible. We need to have communication. I think the earlier candidates keep hinting and stating the same thing, it's communication. We need to build those bridges. We need to be visible. We need to show that we are a valuable asset. For example, when the university is in need, the university should not hesitate to sit back and reach out to us for assistance. One good example was the Cybex program. Something as minuscule as raising $50,000. The university did not choose to even broach it with the Alumni Association. Once the alumni were aware of it, alumni came together and made a hefty contribution. Did we make the goal in 30 days? No, we did not. But that was because, again, not having that bridge, not having communication. The Alumni Association has to change its branding. Because again, we cannot operate on an island. We cannot be adversarial to the university. I'm not saying that we have to be complacent, but again, we have to be one that forges forward. And in order to forge forward, we have to have information. We have to know what challenges are ahead, know when to, like Kenny Rogers says, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. But we have to change the way that we fundamentally have been operating. And I bring that as a project manager, as a builder of organizations, and a facilitator.
Thank you. I pretty much concur with a lot of what my colleague, fellow Lion stated. When I look back at things, and when Mr. Braxton and I first sat down and talked about developing a unity ticket, I was a little hesitant because in our AALU constitution, it doesn't mention tickets or whatever. But as we spoke, I began to see how sincere he was about unifying our body as a whole and working with the administration. And he was so serious about it that, you know, I could not help but feel comfortable in aligning myself with him. And I think, although I believe that President Ingram was timely. That's my opinion. He was timely, and he did what he had to do. Because again, this organization was not where it should have been, not where it could be, but he has moved the needle tremendously. And so, despite that, you know, he ruffled some feathers, things were done. Some things were done. But 2 minutes. But Mr. Braxton, his style, as he stated, is going to be much different. And I believe he is someone, and I have put my trust in him that I can work with. And I think together we can move forward and work with this administration. Again, we're looking at major change here within the next several months. And that will be a new president and a new Board of Trustees chair. So, you know, the thinking will likely be different. Our actions will likely be different. And hopefully our successes will be different.
That concludes the questions. It is now time to open the floor to any questions anyone has. Mr. Payne.
Our AALU Constitution clearly states that the Vice President is the person who become President if the President is no longer able to serve. With that said, I ask you, if you were elected under a president that you did not necessarily have common belief with, if you had an issue that you strongly disagreed with your president, would you have the courage to come out and speak publicly and let your differences of opinion be known? Or would you keep your issues silent? This question is for both candidates.
Thank you, sir, for your question. I would have no issue confronting my president, whoever he, I was going to say he or she, he might be. But I think, you know, from what I have learned that in terms of communication and interacting with individuals, it is better to discuss one-on-one with people and hash out ideas and concerns rather than just publicly going out and saying, I totally disagree with him. He's an idiot. You know, why are we doing this? That is not the stance that I would take, okay? I think we would need to sit down. I would need to express why I felt differently about the position that he would be taking, and then we would kind of work from there. But I think, you know, vice president and president, it's called a team in my eyes. And we have to work as a team, and we have to work together to fix problems that are, you know, that confront us. So that's my approach, sir.
From your question, I'm taking it that if I personally had a disagreement in the running or
a difference of policy.
In policy, being a team doesn't necessarily mean being complacent or acquiescing and sitting in the background. Having extensive corporate experience as well as in public service, healthy debate is always a good thing. In fact, having someone who is congruent with some of your ideas, but can also be a counterweight to bounce ideas off, is very healthy. I think a lot of times we've been caught up in just inertia. Everyone wants to be one, and let's just roll down this hill even though we're going into a path of oblivion. Communication is everything. Whomever my president will be, I will be on their team. That does not mean that we will not disagree. That does not mean that I will be a figurehead, a rubber stamp, or someone who is perceived to be their puppet. Our Alumni Association has to have confidence that their leadership consists of leaders, and it's not about one singular individual. It has to be one that they feel as though that if they do disagree, that they have a conduit, a voice, an ear, that they can bring those ideas, and those ideas reach our leadership. So, and knowing both candidates for presidency very well, they know, matter of fact, as being their president when they were here with the yard, they know that I'm an independent thinker. They know that I will bring healthy debate. Even if I agree, I will bring debate because, again, we have to think this through, because if we are singular in thought, we have to be able to provide a rational and congruent front, because we thought this through. So it's not about damaging the brand of the Alumni Association, and it's not about the public outbursts and shenanigans that some have been used to in the past. We keep our dirty laundry in-house. However, that does not mean that there's not disagreement behind closed doors and vibrant debate.
Questions from the board?
Good afternoon. I'm Gloria Hartwell, class of 79. I have become affiliated with the AALU in 2012 as well, during the time of reorganization. At the national level, I am the Director of Training and Development. I am at the local level, the second Vice President of the Baltimore Metro Chapter. This question is for Eric, and Nita, you may address it as well. As a bridge builder and a facilitator, given the display of contentious energy that we all beheld in this room today, as a bridge builder, knowing that there is a lot of polarization amongst the alumni, how will you influence your president, or what programs will you put forth at the national level to bridge this contention and the polarization that we're experiencing among the alumni?
Very good question. As a project manager, I'm experiencing managing individuals that I have no direct supervisory or reporting experience with. When we're talking about building bridges with contentious or polarized groups, the biggest thing is communication. People have to feel as though that they have a voice. And being the vice president, being that person sitting next to the individual who is running the AALU, people need to feel free that they can come to me, that they have a platform, that their ideas, their problems, their concerns are heard. That is what I will bring. This will not be a rubber stamp or come along to get along administration if I'm in it. Both of the presidential candidates know me. A number of the alumni know me. And with my strong independent will, I refuse to let individuals that may have been disenfranchised in the past continue to be disenfranchised. I refuse also to disenfranchise those that may feel as though because the election may not have gone the way that they feel that they wished it to go, and they want, well, they need to take their ball and go home. We are one family. We are one pride. The pride of 58. A pride of lions is stronger than the solitary hyena. That's the strength of a lion. That's the strength of our alumni. And with that being said, we need to bring the pride together. It's not about this faction. It's not about that faction. A couple of questions for the previous candidates. It's not about friendship. It's about stewardship. And in this position, unfortunately, there comes some responsibilities with the position. It's not to be liked. It won't be easy. We will disagree because, again, we are Lincoln men and women. We are not 100% congruent in all of our thoughts. So individuals that feel as though they may be disenfranchised, there's always an open door. There's always a means for communication. Although we've disagreed in the past, we've sat back on the yard, shake hands, can we say share a drink on a dry campus? Share a beverage and a meal together because we're family. And I think we need to get back, when I say we need to get back to the fundamentals, is we are a family. The only difference is the individuals sitting before you or sitting at the front of the room are family members with responsibility. Our responsibility is to be the steward for you, for this organization. Service before self is a motto that goes for my organization. It also should be a motto for any type of service when you're in leadership. It's not about me, it is the we. And if I cannot steward the alumni, the future alumni, and build those bridges with the administration across this campus green, then I do not deserve to be.
I am in agreement with what Mr. Teal has said. The only thing that I would probably add to it would be that communication is a critical part. And I think when we find as individuals where there's contention that has built, that again is mostly attributable to lack of communication. So what we have here, sadly, on the campus of Lincoln University is that the administration, as you have heard much throughout the day, has failed to communicate with we, the alumni. And so we, the alumni, are trying to act in a way that we want to contribute, we want to align ourselves, we want to reach out, but because of all of that lack of communication that we are not getting, or the lack of communication that we are not getting from the alumni, from the administration, it causes us additional frustration. And when frustration builds because of lack of communication, what you have is people beginning to make things up in their own mind because, again, they don't know what the real deal is. So this is what it must be. And as a result of that, you get chaos. So with all of that said, again, I really believe that we can work most effectively to try to bring everyone together, to try to improve those lines of communication. And again, the new administration, we're going to keep hope alive, as Jesse would say. So.
Any other questions? You ready with it? Okay. So this question is for both candidates, and it has to deal with the independence of the association. But as president of the organization, I want to first commend Harvey Boyce, Cletus Saunders, and Stephanie Wilson Benson. Anybody else from you here?
Not here.
Okay, so you want to name the other members?
Yvonne Lashley is sick with pneumonia. Captain Jones is not feeling well either.
Okay, so on behalf of the association, we extend a profuse thank you for all your hard effort on what, especially with these fine candidates, each of the trustee candidates, Scott and Darrell, and Mr. Teal and Ms. Timmons. This has been a fine forum, so we want to commend you and thank your committee. Dr. Timmons. Dr. Timmons. So I want to talk about the independence of the association. And you know, when our administration came in, this is a moribund organization. That's the word I always use because I think it captures it greatly. There was only one chapter that was active.
Sir,
It was the entire association. Oh yeah, there is a question. If I can get your endorsement. You needed mine. No. But we can step outside afterwards.
Absolutely.
We can step outside afterwards. We can step outside afterwards. So again, this was a moribund organization with only one chapter. We're up to 15 chapters now. The president of this association, when a number of alumni were upset because the library had been closed for 5 years, when we sought to get answers from the university and they weren't communicating to us, finally, we decided to go to the Alumni Association, but then found out that the president of the Alumni Association was also the head librarian at the university. The point I'm making is simply this. This organization's come a long way. And alumni, although they were rolling down that hill into oblivion, Mr. Teal, and quiet, and everybody unified in their silence, the university is going from hell to the handbasket. So I'm asking about the independence of this association. We go to 1872 as the oldest historically black university. The oldest historically black college and university alumni association that's been independent.
Mr. Ingram.
There are a number of people that have been coming to us to be taken into.
Mr. Ingram, you gotta have a question.
I got a question, Harvey.
Where? Get it to come. Do a question now. This is the phone.
Okay, I'm sorry. The question is simply this. Should the association be rolled up into the university, as many people in the university want, or should we remain independent of the university? Both candidates. You're welcome.
My position is that the Alumni Association of Lincoln University should never, I repeat, never be rolled into the university by any means. This organization is an independent organization. It has its purpose, and its purpose would be marred, tainted, and many other adjectives that, I probably can't say on tape, but, so it is my position that, no, this organization must maintain its independence, its independent thought, its independent funds, and its independent mission.
In a word, Mr. President, no. However, cooperation does not mean there's a lack of independence. Cooperation does not mean acquiescence. The one thing that we've been speaking here to all of our candidates, the illustrious trustees, our presidential candidates, ourselves, and this election and past elections has been what? Communication. We sit back and we say we're a family, but we're a dysfunctional family. And it pains me to say that. We've disagreed. Family's been dysfunctional for a while. We've made some inroads. There have been some achievements. Not saying that there hasn't been some stellar accomplishments. But again, as a leader, as a man, as one who will sit back and accept stewardship of the position, one must also admit one's shortcomings. We have failed. We have failed. And unfortunately, if we do not address the failures that we've made and continue to revel in the achievements that we wish to hold up, the apathy and the deterioration of this fine independent organization will continue until it is irrelevant. It's not about celebrating I was homecoming king back in 19 ... What have we done today? What will we do tomorrow? Not saying roll us up and take us in, but we do need communication. We do need cooperation. We cannot move forward. A leader cannot lead if he does not have people who buy in. Sometimes we lose the battle to win the war. And unfortunately, being a military man, I understand that. Well, we have two illustrious military service individuals up here. And we have to sit back and realize that strategy is not made by just victories. It's by observing, studying, and learning from our losses and shortcomings.
Francis Paul, class of 1979, alumni trustee. Just quickly, off the top of your head, are you able to think of any ways to raise money? I know it was asked another way, but to raise money internally and externally, because we need some more funding and some more funding streams. So have you given that any thought? And it doesn't have to be lengthy. Just think.
Actually, those that are aware that I ran for vice president last election cycle, Mr. Fields and I put together a comprehensive 20-point plan that included corporate as well as internal fundraising strategies. Again, if you ask for pennies, we get pennies. We're looking at partnerships and asking for real dollars. It's a hard thing to do. But again, with this short period of time going through step by step, I will gladly forward that information on to anyone who wishes to ask for details about it.
Thank you. Internally, I envision the growth of grants to the university and our partnership with organizations, corporate sponsors, and government, as government exists right now, to develop grants. Now, I would imagine, and again, not having firsthand knowledge of this, but I would imagine that some of the faculty may not be well versed in developing grant proposals and so forth and so on. So if we could identify a means to indoctrinate them into the awareness of how to sit down and write a grant, what grants are available and so forth and so on, that might be an option to bring big money into the university. On a more alumni scale, what I had thought about was perhaps doing an orange and blue fundraiser. Again, this is just primarily a means to draw financial contributions from alumni. But say, for instance, alumni who graduated before the class, before 1985, they would be called the Blue alumni. And anyone 86 to date would be called the Orange alumni. So we could have a competitive kind of situation where, you know, are you part of the Orange or are you part of the Blue? And can the Blue donate the Orange? That would be kind of a loose fundraiser. So those are kind of the things that I've been playing with.
Thank you.
A minute to think about it. My question came about because Mr. Teal offended me when he said that the AALU has failed. I think you're young, but I don't think that you're so young that you don't remember how the organization functioned prior to the current administration. And I'm not giving credit or taking credit from the current administration. I'm just saying that before this administration, where were you? Where were the people who are saying that the organization failed? Did you do anything that would get me up here a year after year to work, to support? My question is, you know, like, when you identify something as a failure, and I applaud the fact that you want to do something about it now, but like, where were you when we weren't there, when nothing was happening? That's my question.
Thank you for your input. Thank you for your opinion. We can surely discuss it. Again, like myself, like Mr. Scott Fields, like a number of my alumni, a lot of my classmates, we have donated to the university. We've seen the lack of functionality and lack of inclusion in the Alumni Association. Sometimes you sit back and you make a choice. In business, do you want to invest $1 in a failing organization? Or do you wish to continue to throw out charity? Sometimes you make a decision and say, you know what? I can't idly sit by anymore and be apathetic. So, I feel sorry that I offended you. My words offended you. I will be man enough to do what others may not have done in the past. I'm sorry to offend you. If my words offended you, that was not their intent. My words were meant to engage you, pull you in, and get you involved and think. And if you sit back and realistically think, as you talk about the matriculation of the Alumni Association, and if you honestly look at it, are we where we should be? And if you say yes, then I have to question it. Because just by the sheer nature of this room, just by the sheer nature of the attacks of the various candidates, by the sheer nature of the way this forum, which should be a family discussion.
You guys want to make the closing arguments?
Yes.
She didn't answer. Oh,
No, it's just now.
But thank you.
I don't get the answer.
No.
Three?
Agreement.
Like the other candidates, I am asking for your vote in a few weeks. I am certain our opponents are good men as they are Lincoln men, but their track record, by comparison, their history of presence and action is clearly lacking. And I'm not lashing out, I'm just calling to cite what is the obvious. Again, before you vote, carefully consider the history of your candidate and his or her engagement with the university. Take the time to review the proposed presidential platform of Mr. Braxton, as well as mine as the Vice President. Both are realistically and achievable given the resources currently available to the association. I'm asking you to put your trust in us. Trust that I can do the job as your Vice President. Trust that we will look from within to find the most committed, talented, and experienced of us to form the alumni think tanks necessary to effectively address our issues, advance our causes, and to formulate and execute action plans. I also want to see the I don't know what I can do folks, but tell me how I can help, because you are of more value than you know. Trust that my commitment will never be suspect. This is a repayment for what Lincoln gave 4 generations of my family. My grandfather, 1928, my uncle, 1951, me, 1979, and my son, 2014. Trust my voice as it is yours. I will not be afraid to speak with you, nor will I be afraid to speak for you. If you want someone to sit idly by while decisions are made which might harm the university, or who allow this association to be run or overrun by the university because they fail to protect the independent status of this organization as codified by its charter and founders, then your vote does not belong to us. In closing, this is an association for and run by the alumni. It's time to come together, whether we are 60 years apart or 6 years apart. In our alma mater we sing, and for thee with our might we will ever toil, that thou mightest be supreme. Will the level of personal commitment you make equal the words you sing? Will it help sustain, grow, and strengthen the legacy of our university and this association? You need us, and we need you. Martin Luther King said, if you can't run, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. Whatever the result of this election, we must all do something and work together to move forward. There are lots of good things going on this campus, but there will be even greater things going on if the alumni were engaged. So vote for Braxton, vote for Timmons.
Time.
Vote for LaQuinn.
Mr. Till, your final remarks.
79.
And over the mic.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to come here to participate. To my fellow alumni, I ask that you look within your heart, to take some of the eloquent words that my fellow candidate has spoken. We talk about unify. She made mention of independence. What I say is a vote for me, a vote for Mr. Ernest Scott Fields is a vote for independence, a vote for independent thought, a vote for non-acquiescence. If you like the status quo, I think you know where your vote belongs, not here. We need independent thought, independent thinking, someone who is strong enough to make the strong decisions, the hard decisions, and bring us back together. Unity does not mean lack of independence. Strength does not mean silence. It is about the pride of Lincoln University. And in order for us to come together as a pride, we have to embrace our differences, embrace differences in thought, and have open debate, not the continuation of status quo. Thank you for giving me your time today. Hail, hail, Lincoln.
Forum, I'd like to thank you for coming. Tomorrow, all the ballots for the 2017 election will be mailed out tomorrow. So, you have till May the 20th to mail it back. It has to be postmarked by May the 16th. If it's not postmarked by May the 16th, then you may hand deliver it to the committee at the summit.
On the 20th.
On the 20th, correct.
No, what's
By 2 o'clock. This concludes the forum for the officers of the Alumni Association. But I have one thing to say. Change is something that people have a hard time dealing with. When the President, Robert, came 4 years ago, he did a lot of things. He ruffled a lot of feathers. His presentation was totally wrong. But that was him. He did a lot of good things. But his presentation was totally wrong. People, feathers got ruffled. So it became a personality. But he did a lot of good things for the organization and for the Alumni Association. So the time is up. It's time for change. Those people are stepping up, running a new administration. So what we need to do now is unite and get to where we need to be. Because like they were saying before, this organization was at a dismal point. And he brought it back, not the way everybody liked, but he brought it back. And the only thing we can do now is move forward. I want to hit him in the head because he got me involved in it. I want to hit him in the head because he pledged it. But as an alpha man, we are different. We're individuals. And that goes with every other lion in here. We're different and we're individuals. We got our own way of doing things. We're not going to agree with everybody. That's why this election is so important. He did a lot of things. Well, he didn't do a lot of things, but I disagreed with him with a lot of things. But got it done. Thank you, my brother.
You're welcome.
All right?
Blessings.
Good luck to everybody else. It's a new day coming, May the 20th. Make sure you send your ballots in. Make sure you pay your dues so you can send your ballots in to vote. I'd like to thank my committee, Thaddeus, timekeeper, moderator, Ms. Wilson. Yes, Mr. Williams?
I just wanted to offer a nice closing prayer because we're coming together as a family.
Yes.
I think what happens is that we got to go basically tell everybody that's in the room, we're here as one Lincoln River alone. I think that would be something to kind of pull everybody out.
That's right. Different lines, different attitudes, but we're still lions and lionesses. All right? Anything else? Thank you for our video crew, senior students.
Thank you.